Can someone explain this to me? Why is it not a mandate to capture free energy? Especially when it is from something that is more harmful to the environment than CO2. Every day, 2.2 million people in San Diego flush their waste into an underground network that ends at the edge of the Pacific Ocean. And every day, the plant that receives that waste does something most of the world has never bothered to try. It turns sewage into power. Not just a little power. Enough to run itself entirely, and then send what's left over through a public utility pipeline to power a university miles away. The methane that rises from decomposing waste, the same gas that most treatment plants quietly burn off into the sky, or worse, simply let escape is, at the Point Loma wastewater treatment plant, the most valuable thing on the property. That contrast, between what is possible and what is actually practiced, is at the heart of one of the most underreported environmental crises of our time. Part 1. The blueprint. Point Loma processes roughly 175 million gallons of wastewater every single day. Inside sealed cylindrical vessels called anaerobic digesters, microorganisms break down the organic solids from that sewage in the complete absence of oxygen. The biological process produces biogas, a mixture of roughly 60% methane and 40% carbon dioxide. And here is where Point Loma diverges from almost every other facility in the country. Where most plants see that gas as a problem to dispose of, Point Loma sees it as a product to refine. The raw biogas first runs through a cogeneration system. Engines burn it to produce both electricity and heat simultaneously. The heat loops back into the digesters, maintaining the precise temperature the microorganisms need to keep producing. The electricity powers the plant's operations. The result is a facility that draws nothing from the commercial power grid. It is, in the truest sense, self-sufficient. But the story doesn't stop there. A portion of the biogas is run through a second process, a purification system that strips out the carbon dioxide, the hydrogen sulfide, and the other trace contaminants. What remains is biomethane. Pipeline-quality gas, chemically indistinguishable from the fossil-derived natural gas in your home. That gas is then injected directly into SDG&E's public natural gas pipeline, the first such project ever completed in California. It travels through existing infrastructure to the UC San Diego campus, where it powers a 2.8 megawatt fuel cell and provides cooling for university buildings. The system is not just energy neutral. It generates revenue. And it has never once violated the stringent quality standards SDG&E requires for pipeline injection. This is not experimental technology. It's not a pilot program, it has been running for years. Which makes the next part of this story all the more difficult to explain. Part 2. What most plants are actually doing. Only about 10% of the roughly 15,000 wastewater treatment facilities in the United States use anaerobic digestion technology at all. 10%. Among those that do, the most common destination for the resulting biogas is not a generator, not a pipeline, not a fuel cell. It's a flare stack. A torch at the edge of the property that burns off the methane as a nuisance, converting it to carbon dioxide before releasing it to the atmosphere. And when that flare is poorly maintained, which studies show happens with troubling frequency, not all the methane is fully combusted. Some escapes unburned. And unburned methane is not merely a wasted resource. It is, molecule for molecule, a far more dangerous greenhouse gas than the carbon dioxide the flare was supposed to produce. The scale of what's being lost is only recently becoming clear. Two independent studies by Princeton University researchers found that the EPA's official estimates of methane emissions from wastewater facilities are off, not slightly, but by a factor of nearly 2.5. The actual emissions, measured directly at 63 plants, are approximately 2.4 times higher than what the government reports. Wastewater now accounts for roughly 2.5% of all U.S. methane emissions. That is not a footnote. That is a significant and growing source that has been systematically undercounted. A comprehensive analysis published in the journal Nature Water put the national total at approximately 47 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per year, 41% above the government's own figures. Part 3. The hidden problem inside advanced systems. Here is something counterintuitive, and frankly disturbing. Plants that have anaerobic digesters, the ones that are nominally doing the right thing, can be among the worst methane emitters. The digesters themselves, when operated at suboptimal temperatures or with sludge that stays in the system too long, produce methane inefficiently. The gas doesn't all make it into the capture system. And downstream, in the storage tanks, the dewatering equipment, the final processing steps, the biological process continues. Methane-saturated sludge releases gas as it's agitated. These fugitive emissions are small in any one place, but they add up across an entire facility in ways that are rarely monitored and almost never reported accurately. The Nature Water study found that digester configurations, the supposedly advanced ones, are responsible for 16 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per year in fugitive methane alone. In many cases, that figure outweighs the climate benefit of the electricity those same digesters produce. In other words, a poorly managed digester system can be worse for the climate than no digester at all. Point Loma sidesteps this trap precisely because its model treats methane as a commodity, not a byproduct. When you're selling gas into a public utilities pipeline, every uncontrolled leak is money leaving the building. Economic incentive and environmental responsibility point in the same direction. That alignment is the mechanism that the rest of the industry is missing. Part 4. The global catastrophe. Because what's happening in the United States, inefficient, neglected, under-monitored, is the optimistic scenario on the global stage. In much of the developing world, the concept of anaerobic digestion and biogas capture doesn't enter the conversation at all. The prevailing method of wastewater treatment across sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, and large parts of Latin America is the open anaerobic lagoon. These are exactly what they sound like: open bodies of water where organic waste decomposes in the sun. They require no energy input, minimal infrastructure, and they work, in the most basic sense, as sewage treatment. But they emit methane directly to the atmosphere. No flare. No capture. No monitoring. Every bubble that rises to the surface of those lagoons and pops is a direct, unmitigated greenhouse gas emission released into the air. An estimated 90% of wastewater in the developing world is discharged without adequate treatment. The methane produced by these systems contributed an estimated 512 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent in 2010 alone, roughly 7% of total global methane output. And the trajectory is worsening. With population growth concentrated in precisely the regions with the least treatment infrastructure, wastewater methane emissions are projected to grow by nearly 20% between 2010 and 2030. This matters urgently because methane is not carbon dioxide. Over a 20-year period, its warming potential is approximately 80 times greater. Its 12-year atmospheric lifespan makes it the fastest lever we have to slow near-term climate change. Every ton of methane we allow to escape uncontrolled from wastewater systems is not simply a missed opportunity to generate clean energy. It is an active acceleration of warming, compounding year by year, in a sector that most climate conversations treat as a footnote. Part 5. The path forward. The solutions exist. They are not experimental. They are not waiting on a scientific breakthrough. Biogas upgrading systems, the kind that take raw biogas and refine it to pipeline quality, are commercially available today. The economics have improved dramatically as renewable natural gas has gained recognition as a legitimate clean fuel. The US EPA has classified wastewater biogas as a cellulosic biofuel under the Renewable Fuel Standard, creating financial incentives for facilities to capture and upgrade it. Oregon shows what is possible when policy and utility partnerships align. The city of Gresham became the first wastewater plant in the Pacific Northwest to generate as much electricity as it consumes in a full year, fueled partly by biogas from sewage and partly from fats, oils, and grease collected from local restaurants. Clackamas County is converting its captured methane into renewable natural gas to replace diesel in its own municipal fleet. None of these were government mandates. They were enabled by technical support and financial incentives from Energy Trust of Oregon, a replicable model that could function at a federal level. For the developing world, the pathway starts even simpler. Covering existing open lagoons, a comparatively low-cost intervention, converts an uncaptured methane source into a contained one. From there, the gas can be flared to reduce its warming impact, or used in a generator to produce electricity. The Climate and Clean Air Coalition estimates that the wastewater sector holds the potential to reduce global greenhouse gas emissions by up to 671 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent by 2050. That is not a marginal gain. That is a meaningful contribution to the targets the world has committed to. The methane rising invisibly from open lagoons. From leaking flares in rural Ohio. From poorly managed digesters in mid-sized American cities. It is not an unavoidable consequence of treating human waste. It is a choice, made through inaction, through regulatory neglect, through the persistent failure to see this gas as a resource rather than a problem. Point Loma has proven, for decades, that the infrastructure we build to manage what we flush away can simultaneously power our communities, reduce our emissions, and generate revenue for the cities that operate it. All from a waste stream that is going to flow whether we capture it or not. The gas is there, every single day. The only question is what we choose to do with it. So, can someone explain to me why we are not requiring every new wastewater treatment plant being built to conform to this practice? Or why municipalities are not planning retrofits or upgrades to achieve the goals? If this story made you think differently about what happens after you flush the toilet, good. And if you want more topics like this, please like and subscribe. Because there are a lot more stories buried out there.